All right, welcome back. This is Declassified, and the document here is Cryptological Aspects of VSP, and I'm just going to get right into it. Soviet Bloc Report Science and Parapsychology. One of the most critical aspects in the development of any new technology or field of science is the caliber of men working in the field. There are a fairly large number of Soviet scientists, see Appendix A and B, investigating various aspects of VSP. Some of these men are the leaders of less controversial fields of science. Perhaps a comparative study should be made based on past experience, the amount of high caliber effort focused on a particular problem in the past as related to the speed with which the particular problem was solved, to indicate the approximate time period remaining to us before Soviet science begins to bring the practical applications out of the field of parapsychology. So basically they're saying they need to study what they've already, aggregate what Russia has done in order to see how quickly they're going to progress. In view of the recent Soviet emphasis on the new type of energy aspect of the field, it appears that this suggestion would be timely. As of 1972, between $13 and $20 million are reported to be invested in the Soviet ESP research in 20 or more centers of research. And then there's a reference number there, which is referencing a Defense Intelligence Agency report, and it's called Controlled Offensive Behavior. And I think that document is also declassified within the CIA CREST library as well. Continuing reading. Soviet field research directed toward the isolation and investigation of PSI energy seems to have made some significant discoveries in 1969 in spite of some considerable opposition in Soviet official and scientific circles. One of the most intriguing developments during the year was the seminar of studies and experiments concerning the telekineticist Kalugini. That might be a show name because in parentheses there's Nella Mikolova. A film of her capabilities has been made, viewed by Western observers, and portions of the film were copied from the screen and brought back to the U.S. The chief Soviet parapsychologist, Dr. Edward K. Nomov, asserts that the powers of Miss Koglinia has been observed by Professor Terlexry, a well-known Soviet physicist who postulates some new kind of energy to explain this capability. This considerable interest in the Kalugini capability seems to be somewhat related to the 1968 Soviet scientific interest in Ted Sirios, who was able to produce a photograph using mind energy alone of a Soviet rocket never before known to be available in Western communication or news media. The authenticity of the missile was vouched for by Professor Vikony Anamov of, it's blocked out a little bit, something State University, while he was an exchange professor at Nebraska University. During the Kalugini experiment, a new device called a wireless EEG was used to detect some sort of energy pulsing around Koliniga. Okay, so wow. All right, so I'm going to read that sentence again. During the Koliniga experiment, a new device called a wireless EEG was used to detect some sort of pulsing around Koliniga while she was demonstrating the PK effect. Other reports indicate that these same rather sophisticated devices have been used to test clinically dead people. When ordinary EKG and EEG registers nothing, these detectors register some sort of energy. Dr. Abram Hofer and Dr. Harold Kelm of the University of Saskatchewan are doing similar research with devices of a much similar design. Western observers report that the best parapsychological work done in the Soviet bloc countries was being done in Bulgaria by Dr. George Iazanov. He has been in the field for over 30 years. He claims high-level support and possesses the only nationalized psychic in the world, Vaga, who is famous all over Eastern Europe and even in USSR. Lazanov is reported to have many institutions all over Bulgaria filled with costly Italian instruments and equipment. He appears to have free access to Western parapsychological journals and has traveled through most of Western Europe and recently in India. So we have Appendix A, which I think that means we're getting close to the end of that chapter. So I'll just read the appendix here. Russian Dr. A.G. Sergeyev, invention of the wireless EEG, works in a military lab. Dr. Nikolai Kozyrev conceives time as a carrier of telepathic information. Dr. Pavel Guyayev of Leningrad Laboratory describes the biological plasma on electrical aura. Professor Terleksky, well-known Soviet physicist, has observed telekineticist Kolginia and postulates some new form of energy to explain her feats. N.A. Vallas, well-known physicist, works on serious photographic effect. I'm not sure what that means other than a reference to the previous couple of paragraphs. And Professor P.K. Oshkinpokov, inventor of radiolocation in USSR, well-known specialist in field of introscopy, also has a new energy concentration theory to explain the serious effect. Professor Viktor Anifimov, there's a weird typos in here, psychics exchange professor at Nebraska State University, authenticate Sirius photographs. Okay, so we have Sirius with an R and Sirius with a Y. I don't know. So it might be Sirius photographs, not Sirius. Sirius photographs of Soviet bloc rocket. Although the Y and the R are not located on the keyboard, so I'm not sure why there's such a big discrepancy in that word. Sirius photographs of Soviet bloc rocket, not seen before in the US. Leading parapsychologist in Bulgaria and sponsor of Vania Dmitrieva, famous clairvoyant who was nationalized by the Bulgarian government and is well known in the Soviet bloc and even in the USSR. Lazanov is a very powerful in Bulgaria. I find all these names interesting because the Balkan states, I mean, there was a war that started in the 80s, I believe, from the 70s, and you start to read these documents and look at the technology, the scientists, the professors, where they're all located, and it's constantly in places where the research had already been done or was being done, or people were already publicly known via their own people regionally to have these gifts or these powers, to have these sensitivities. And then let's move forward to today, from the 70s on to today, the Middle East, which contains ancient historical information, which probably is equatable to secrets or mystery texts or mastery texts that relate to this stuff, as most ancient documents, including Egyptian magic and things like that, were basically astral projection, healing through the mind, as well as alchemy being used to help the human body and help the human endeavor overall. So this Appendix B, continuing reading, there's some sanitized sections on here. Soviet opposition to research in parapsychology, filmed experiments with Nina Kovgani. Here we have the U and the V interchanged. I wonder if these were being typed on actual typewriters, in which case the buttons were broken or something. But I'm sure they had, in the 70s and 60s, they had machines that worked well enough to change the keys. Validity of Nelia Nikolov's claim to telekinetic power. So it looks like they confiscated some reports or found some reports and then sanitized who the reports were on or who the reports were sent to. Recognition given to Dr. George Lazanov of parapsychology in Bulgaria. So these are 1968, 1969. It's all 69s. Claim to watch wireless EEG data, 1969. All right, so this is Chapter 6, Testing for the Cryptological Aspects of ESP. I'll stop this one here and pick up on Chapter 6.